Welcome to episode 16 of the Abundant Mother podcast. This is where you're going to dive into motherhood and money, two topics that seemingly don't go together, but I'm going to tell you how. Now, I'm really inspired by a podcast that I've recently listened to, and it is my intention and my hope that I bring this doctor on the Abundant Mother podcast at some time in the near future. So I'm saying that now to send out the good vibes into the universe, that she will actually be able to come on and have a conversation with me that integrates what I like to teach, which is esoteric and spiritual education and leaning into motherly wisdom, with what she teaches, which is very science and research backed. Now, we all filter the world through multiple different lenses. Some of us really resonate and gravitate towards spiritual teachings and understanding energy alignment, while some of us need to understand what's the research behind this and what is the evidence behind this. Now, bringing her on the show will integrate these two very things. But I want to bring in her concepts, her ideas, her wisdom, and her research into today, so I can kind of begin to paint you a picture of why I felt so called to create Birth Your Biz and Manifest and Lead. It is because this is palpable in society today, that we are told, A, we either need to pick a lane of motherhood and or work, or B, we are guilt tripped because we now live in a society after the feminist movement, which was so beautiful and powerful for multiple ways, but we now live in a society where more women than ever are going to universities and colleges, walking away with degrees and higher education, and we're telling each other that when we have our children, that it's actually doing a disservice to our degree to not go back into the workplace. I have heard these conversations from clients, from talking to other mamas, from overhearing them at the nail salon. I understand that society is guilt tripping us. Even our companies that we're going back to work for are guilt tripping us because they're trying to get the most bang for their buck in your work production, okay? It doesn't make them bad, it doesn't make them evil, they're not even consciously aware of what it is that they're doing. And I'm going to tell you what impact it's having. It's having an impact of our children's mental health. I know that you are aware of the headlines of what's happening in the world with social media. Our adolescents are at an all-time high in anxiety. Our adolescents are at an all-time stress level. Our adolescents are constantly comparing themselves to one another, constantly strolling social media, constantly ingrained in something that's not even real, which is this comparison about what's happening on the screen next to them, right? And that is also because the parents, you, our society, are at an anxiety level that we do not need to bear. The comparison that we have between what our household makes from the neighbor next door, the comparison that we have about what car that you drive versus that person that is in front of you in the pickup line. These comparisons are innocent, that they happen in your mind, but how are they causing issue for our future generation? Now, a lot of the times when you tune into these episodes, you're hearing inspirational talk. And I definitely want to keep it that light essence. I definitely want you to understand that there is an outcome here that is beautiful. But in order to get there, we have to go through the darkness sometimes. We have to go through the pressure, and we have to acknowledge that something that's been working in our system is no longer. And so, what I'm going to encourage you to do today is quit your job. Now, I say that jokingly, but I'm saying that with truth. And I'm going to extrapolate this because you could end this episode right now, or you could take this as a seed. I want you to know that there's nothing that you need to do besides just receive this information today. There's no action that you need to take besides for you to marinate on this, drink this in, and see if it feels relevant to you. Now, I'm not talking about every career that you need to quit, but I am talking to you, especially if you feel this in your body, in your DNA, that's like, oh my God, the schedule I've been working is no longer feasible. Or, oh my God, I'm being asked to do things that There's no way that a woman after giving birth and birth again and being a mother can actually show up in ways that this career is making me show up in. I'm being asked to fit this mold that I do not fit anymore and will never fit again. And so if you're feeling this way, if you're feeling like, oh my God, I have been daydreaming about leaving my job, this is an opportunity for you to really tune in, because this doctor, who I'm going to reveal at a later date, speaks about the fact that not all careers are actually created equal. And not all careers are designed for you to be really great at your career and also a really present mother or a really present parent. And that is huge information. No, you are not going crazy. It's actually by design that it's impossible for you to do all of this. And I know that you are smart. I know that you are driven, and I know that you are capable. And there's a way that your mind, your brain, your body, your being has been ingrained into this pattern. And there's a fear. There's a fear of letting down your family by saying, oh, I'm going to actually do a power pause. You might have heard this. It's like a phrase that is defined in motherhood to say, you know what, I'm going to take a step back from my career and really sink into my motherhood. Or you might find that the company that you're working for is disappointed. You were such an asset to them, and they're not willing to let you go or even deviate from this path that they've created that your position requires. You might feel guilt because you and your partner have agreed that you're going to make a certain amount of money and your household needs a certain amount of money to function, and it's imperative for you to be in the workplace. So you could feel these feelings of like, oh, stuckness or, guilt. And that is where the Manifest and Lead one-on-one intensive sessions with me are imperative, because we are going to look at where your life is now and what is it that you dream for it. Do you dream that you have autonomy in your schedule? Do you dream that you have more white space in your calendar? Do you dream that you're there more present for your family, for your children, and less so putting all this effort and energy and pressure on to being on in your career? If this is the case, these are inklings and signs that you are ready to birth and create anew, that you are ready to actually think and feel about what is it that you would do? How is it that you would work an entrepreneurial spirit? And this doctor talks about the fact that service-based careers and entrepreneurial careers are what would allow you to be an amazing present parent and also an amazing CEO, mama CEO, divine feminine boss, whatever it is that you want to call yourself. Entrepreneurship is where it is at, okay? Because you can take the skills that you've learned from your company and your corporation, and you can create that, and you could take the skills and the values and the intuition and the emotional intelligence that you've learned from being a mother and bring those two things together and create a whole new way in a whole new world. I have said time and time again, and I will never stop saying, that a mother is the natural born leader, the natural born CEO, because we have the wisdom, we have the intuitive knowing, and we have the leadership and managerial skills already. So if you're like, oh my God, like, I don't even know where to begin, you're already doing it. I can guarantee you already did it before 9 a.m. today, okay? So please lean into this truth that you have it within you. What you need is mentorship. What you need is to be in the room and around people that are doing it, so that belief that you can do it too gets reemerged and reawakened, or maybe even lit for the first time. Now, the reason why this is so important is to address the mental health crisis that's going on in our world today. That we have these children that are anxious, that we have even behavioral issues that are happening in the toddlerhood years because it's showing us something. We could easily take our children and send them to a therapist, right? And say, hey, please fix my child. This is what's going on. This is what I've observed. Can you please help them? But would you be willing to take the mirror and turn it around on yourself and say, wow, there's behavior that I've displayed that is causing a reaction in my child. There's something that I've been doing or not doing, and my child is having a reaction to that. And maybe your child is having a reaction to the fact that you haven't been present as you wish to be. And I want you to know that you can always change. You can always improve. You can always lean into being the best parent that feels good for you. There's nothing, and it's untrue to think about the fact that it's too far gone. That is not the truth. The truth is that you have the power of now, and you can do whatever it is that you want with your children and yourself from now for forevermore. The past is history. It's already happened. We can't change that. But what we can do is change the now and bring it into our future and bring it into our children's future. And so that is what my entire purpose is and passion is to really help you and help mothers understand that you can be this amazing entrepreneur and a present mother. And those two things can coexist. No, it will look nothing like an entrepreneur journey who doesn't have children. It's impossible. We all know as mothers that we are on different schedules and different people's times, and we have to relate to the world in that way. And again, that is what makes you the most powerful, because motherhood is this spiritual rite of passage. And so if you've been thinking to yourself, maybe you're a stay-at-home mom and that's something that feels so satisfying to you, but as of late, or I should say, and as of late, you've been having these inklings. You've been having these like kind of drips of like, oh, wouldn't it be so nice if I actually did this for some work? Or wouldn't it be so great if I utilize this talent that I have? Or I could turn my side hustle into this and this and this. I truly think that it's time for money. I think that it's time for the power of career to really come into each one of us on our own and work less and less for big conglomerates and corporations and more for ourselves. And how powerful would that be for your children to see you in this role? For your children to be inspired and witnessing you creating your business, scaling your business, and living in your business while doing all the things that you would like to do at home. And then that entrepreneurial spirit gets ingrained in your children. And so they can start off and say, wow, this is something that I would really love to do. Maybe I don't need to take the traditional schooling route. Maybe I can start making money now. What's a small business that I could start? What is it that I could do to start getting into the anchoring of giving and receiving income and putting something out into the world for that income that I'm receiving? How would it change our world? Seriously. And this is something that we cover inside of Birth Your Biz, which is an 8-week immersive experience of group coaching where you will actually tap into teachings and learnings of how to bring your children into your work. And that's not happening in another coaching program on how to start a business that's really geared towards non-parents. It's imperative that we integrate our children into our work. And so that teaching lives on inside of Birth Your Biz. So before we even get to all of the amazingness that this new venture in your life could create for you, I know that there is going to be some sticking points. I know that there's going to be like, I'm getting this image of like feet in glue where it's like, I'm not really quite sure how to make the next step, or I feel stuck, or what is my passion anymore? What is it that I would turn into my work? I've kind of forgotten myself. Well, that is what we will discover in this one-on-one session called Manifest and Lead, where I will hear you. I will be inside of your life, into your brain, into your thinking. I know that sounds wild, but I actually have this intuition and this gift where I could see the stuckness. I could hear the stuckness. And when we begin to extrapolate that, you will be that much closer to making that change in your life. You will be that much closer to transforming and actually being present with your children, as well as present with your passions and with your work. and changing the world by doing so. Changing the world by having children that are witnessing their mother working and living their truest sense of self. By putting into the world your passions, by putting into the world something that is important to you, that is what has the impact to change the world. Okay? I am not sitting here saying, well, I really hope to transform one person's life, which I do. But I look at everything from this huge global scale. I've called my business Alexa Oliveri International because I have an international vision. My mission in general is to integrate motherhood and money, is to change the way that society has separated motherhood and money, to change the way that society has passed down this narrative to say, okay, when mothers are done birthing, they have to step back into their regular corporate job and, do that and send their kids to daycare, and there's no other in between. I am working from that grand of a vision. I am working from the mindset that I'm here to transform and change the world in the most loving, light-filled, and direct way. And so that is also what is in the power inside of you to do in your own unique way, through your own service, through your own creation. How are you actually transforming the world? Because you are. So inside Manifest and Lead, it is one-on-one. You get individualized, specialized attention virtually. And it is an intensive. And what that means is that you will uncover and receive a lot of information and the blueprint, if you will, of how to take the next steps to actually launch this business. And for you, it might be having the courage to tell your partner or your family that you're even thinking or dreaming about doing this. Having the courage to tell yourself, wow, actually following my gut instinct on this is the best possible thing for me and my family. And then from there, if you feel turned on, excited, and happy about this opportunity, you will be having support and your hand held through the process of Birth Your Biz, where we will take you from $0 to launch by the end of the immersive experience. And again, I just want to say that you're going to be seeing science-backed information from me about why it is not only hugely impactful for yourself to do this work, but why it's going to transform your children, why it's going to change our future generation, and how we're going to take back the fact that these kids that are walking around now as teens and tweens have this anxiety. It's because, and I'm going to make a statement now, I'm going to say it's because society has made women believe through this feminist movement that we have to work, and we have to work the same way that we did before we had children. And so our children are being placed in daycares for long, long, long hours of the day. And what is happening to them during that time when they're disconnected from their mother? How are they emotionally regulating themselves? How are they even learning to do that? And then when they're re-greeted with their mother is tired, exhausted, tapped out, understandably so. And what is that doing to that mother and child bond and that relation? We think that because our children can't talk by, at a certain time, or they don't have this understanding of life in the early years, the opposite is actually true. The first 3 years of a child's life is the most impactful for their life. This is where they are a literal sponge. What they're picking up on every single brainwave, on all energy that's happening. They know and feel and sense what's going on, and that is what's being poured into them. And again, if your child is past the age of 3, even if they're in their tween or teen years, there's still a way for you to reframe this and reprogram this and reestablish this bond. It's never too late. It's always an opportunity when the awareness comes in that you have the opportunity to make a change. It's when the awareness comes in that true miracles happen. And so if you get anything from this episode today, it's that if you're feeling this inkling, if you're thinking like, oh my God, this schedule isn't meant for me, or you're daydreaming of going part-time and being with your children the other half of the time, or you're daydreaming about turning this side hustle into an actual business, but you're not quite sure how to get there, you are doing great by just showing up, by listening to this, And now it's, what are you going to do with this information? How are you going to take action? And for some of us, it might be taking action right away. You might be signing up to jump into Manifest and Lead, and there you go. This is all you needed to hear, is the clarification. And for others of us, it might take time. It might take that seed to be planted under the soil, and you continue to work that experience that you're working right now until it no longer works, until you feel totally zapped and stressed and burnt out. Or you can start to see behavioral changes in your children, or you feel that in your soul and your spirit, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I know it's now time to do something else. We all react in different ways to different things. And so it's just an opportunity for you to go, wow, is it more fearful for me to step out and do something that I've been dreaming to do and recreate the system and change society? Or is it more fearful for me to continuously do something that doesn't serve me and my family? Is it more fearful for me to continue to do something and show up in ways that are not making the transformation that I know is possible for me? And so my hope, as always, and my intention as always, is that this message is brought to you with love, but also with drive. Also with, like, not necessarily a push, but a gentle pull of a rope, if you will. That I'm kind of like, come on, let's go. You can do this. I know that when I left my corporate career, I know that there were many people that thought that I was nuts for doing that. I left a job that most people retire from, and I was 30 years old. I left all the things that are seemingly important on the desk. The 401k, the health benefits, the salary that I was earning, the bonuses that I was earning, you know, the accolades, the things that were on the wall. But I knew the moment that I got pregnant, I knew I would never work the same way again. And I was a worker. I would show up. I worked in, retail real estate. And so that meant that on the holidays that everybody was off, that was when we were on tenfold. And so I would show up and work that. Weekends, holidays, late nights, all the things. So I am no stranger to putting in those hours and also wanting the acknowledgement of the higher powers that be at the corporation to see me as this star. I wanted to be on like the top 10 list, and I achieved all of those things. And then when you have a baby and you have another baby and your children are growing and they're like, Mommy, I love you, and I want to spend time with you, and I missed you. Then you start to realize that our society has been putting such weight on things that don't matter that much, and that the true wealth of society is health. The true wealth of society is family and connections and love and creating memories together and growing the future generation to understand that love is really the force that's within all of us, and that society and corporations and all these things, we're chasing this money. We're on this treadmill of chasing this money and these external things. And so if anything, if this is just a pause to say it's okay for you to jump off for a second, to breathe. It's okay for you to recalibrate yourself and say, what is it that I really want my life to look like? What is it that I really want my life to feel like? And it's from this base point that we can make changes and transformations. And to think that you are stuck in something because you've been doing it for so long is a lie. You can change at any time. Every 7 years, every single cell in your body dies and new cells are brought to life. Every 7 years, okay? So if your body goes through this shedding process, of course your mentality, of course your emotional body is also going through this shedding process. It's said that when you get married, you're not the same person that on the day of your wedding that you are 4 years later, 14 years later, or 40 years later. Certainly not. So how can you fall in love again and again with this new person that you're becoming, especially through the lens of motherhood, when you're not the same mother that you were when you birthed your firstborn? You're not the same mother that you were when you birthed your second or third. You're not the same mother when those children become teenagers, or the same when those children leave the home for the first time, or the same when those children have children. This is all different vantage points, different perspectives, different lenses that you're leaning in and learning from and loving in. And so the same is true with you. And so if you can look at yourself as a young child, and this wise older self is looking up at you and saying, it's okay for you to take this path. It's okay for you to change and go this way. And know and sink in that that truly is the case. That we were never meant to stay stagnant. That the only constant in life is true change. And so, final, last plug. If you're feeling ready to at least take one step, join me inside Manifest and Lead, because you will receive the blueprint of what you need and how to actually make this transformation and this transition. This transition sounds so much more gentle sometimes than transformation, because it is a transition. At every point, there's a small step. Transformation is like this big change all at once. That's what I envision. And when you look back at your life, you will see transformations. But it's really about these small transitions. The transitions in the way that you think. The transitions in the way that you speak your words. The transitions in your habits, in your schedule. And that's what ultimately, all of those micro transitions, and where ultimately lands and leads into the transformation. So I encourage you. I know that you have a passion, and I know that you have a purpose, and I know that's motherhood, and I know that that's also something else, your work outside of motherhood. Whether it is you're creating something with your hands, you're an artist, whether it is that you're creating a service-based business where you're consulting, where you're helping people online, where you're taking the marketing and the sales expertise that you've brought into this company and have earned money for this company, probably 3 times to 10 times the amount of what your salary is. Maybe it's now time for you to take this into your hands and say, you know what? I'm ready to do this for myself. You know what? I've learned all the skills and I soaked up all the things that I'm meant to do. And now this chapter is coming to a close and I'm ready to embark on something that's going to get my creative juices feeling great, and something that's going to inspire my kids, and something that's going to allow me to have autonomy in my schedule. Because if it's anything, autonomy in this schedule is true freedom. If you're having to tell somebody where you need to show up and when you need to show up, or travel at this location and be here at that location, you don't have freedom. And ultimately in motherhood, our biggest asset, our biggest gift is to have freedom and availability. And so this is what it is that I'm teaching. Freedom and availability is right here for you. I love you. You are powerful, you are capable, and you are worthy. I am here to support you in all the ways. Have a very, very beautiful day.